Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the weekly book steep where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. The drink of choice today is water. It is not as early in the morning as I would prefer to have filmed. I overslept. I have plans, and my brain has decided to drag its heels on doing everything I need to do before I leave the house today. So water it is. We're just keeping it real around here. It's also been a very, very hectic week. So this is my reading week from the 18th until the 24th of July. This week at work, second week back, we've had conferences, we've had a teacher strike, we've had all sorts of things going on. My brain totally forgot that I had a ginormous pile of kids' books to read this week for review because they come out either next week or have come out or are like tangentially related to this next upcoming week. I'm normally a little bit better about kind of spacing them out, but yeah. Get yourself a drink, get comfy. We're going to talk about the books that I read in the past week. There were 17 things I read this week. There is a significant number of them that are kids' titles. I read a total of 3,136 pages. I had 4 audiobook rereads, 0 DNFs, and 0 books for projects. I did have a plan, sort of, to do a Christmas in July reading vlog. I don't think that's happening now because by the time it goes up, it will be August. So I guess I'll just be saving those books for December. This is my stack of kids' review titles. Alrighty, so I did something really silly. I've literally just realized as I'm sitting here filming, and I've literally filmed 7 minutes of talking about kids' books, which is fine. I'm going to save some of this footage. These are all the kids' titles that I've read the last week. 3 or 4 of them are books that I had to read for this week. The rest are for the following week. So I'm going to save that footage because I've literally just talked about every single one of them. This does also help me out though, because I needed to film individual reviews for all of them, and I don't have time this weekend. So I can pace myself just a little bit. These are all the titles that I did read and that I just talked about. And these are the 3 that are actually coming out this week or have already come out, and I'm just behind on reviewing them. Let's cut to the footage that I just filmed talking about all of these books. From Hachette, I received 2 picture books. The first one is One Word, A Girl's Quest to Learn Her Grandfather's Hidden First Language, written and illustrated by Melissa Jane Fogarty. We are thinking about First Nations languages here in Australia, but specifically the trauma for a lot of older Indigenous people in Australia, the fact that they were not allowed to speak their language, or they were only allowed to speak their language with 1 or 2 people around them, usually close family members after they were taken from their families. Myra is a young girl, and she and her father speak English to one another, but when he's talking to somebody on the phone, she hears him use a different language and she wants to know a little bit more about it. And she keeps pushing and he kind of keeps changing the subject or resisting. And it's not until later that she finds out and realizes that there is a reason why he is very cautious about sharing his first language with her, not because he doesn't want to, but because back in the day, Indigenous Australians were punished for speaking in their first language. At its core, this book is about love and connection and reclaiming your connection to culture, your connection to language. It is really, really beautiful. And then on a completely different note, also from Hachette, there is Find Me in the Forest by Jess McGeachin. I love Jess McGeachin's books. This one is all about the wonders of the forest. This book describes the different types of forests that you can find around the world and the different types of fauna and flora that you might find in the forest. It is gorgeous, it is informative, but it is told in a narrative style. It is really, really wonderful as you are invited to come on the journey to explore some of the most incredible places that you might see on planet Earth. And then from Allen and Unwin, we have The Baby Sleeps by Lisa Dick and illustrated by Laura B. This book is really gorgeous. It is about a father and child that are taking a walk, and it does the thing I really love in kids' picture books where it is expanding out from the moment. So it's talking about while the baby sleeps, what is happening around the baby, and we get further and further and further from that little moment between the father and the daughter. So at first it's the sounds that you hear immediately around you, and then you're expanding to your neighborhood and then to your local area and your city and further out. I love that kind of thing. It's really similar to Bob Graham's Silver Button in that way, in that you zoom out and then you zoom back in. But at its core, it is all about the connection between a parent and their child, and the thing that the child wants most is not necessarily the wide expansive world. It is their parent to love and care for them and to have these little moments together. So really gorgeous little picture book. So thank you to the amazing publishers that have sent me books. Stay tuned. You will hear about the rest of the pile next week. I mean, I suppose in some regards, I've already filmed it, so I've halved some of my workload next week. I told you this was a big week, so clearly I was not paying attention. Which brings us to the rereads, which are all Ilona Andrews. I finished the Hidden Legacy reread on graphic audio, so that was White Hot Wildfire and Diamond Fire, and then I listened to Clean Sweep again. no one is shocked by this. But in terms of new to me titles, this week I read In Stormy Weather by Chelsea Curto, which is her most recent release and is about storm chasers. And you guys know I love a storm. I told you last week I was going to read it. I read it straight away. I had the best time with it. It was really fun. We are following two kind of rivals who end up lovers due to forced proximity and just time spent together. Quincy and Sebastian have known each other for a long time. Sebastian is the brother of Quincy's best friend, and both are meteorologists. Both have followed different paths to pursue their interests. Sebastian hosts the nightly weather and is very well recognized. And Quincy has a video podcast that she does every day. And when storm season hits in Florida, where it's predicted there are going to be numerous hurricanes throughout the course of the season, Sebastian has come home because he is feeling a little bit stuck in his current career path. And he ends up teaming up with Quincy to chase some of these storms and report on it. And he ends up on some of her podcast episodes and has a huge following. Sebastian is the biggest cinnamon roll and he is head over heels in love with Quincy. And kind of watching them fall for one another was really fun. It was one of those stories, I talked about it when I read Face Off by Chelsea Curto. It was kind of a kick your feet, kind of just adorable story, except this time they get caught in really big storms. And you do get concerned for them because, you know, this is the thing that they do. They go into the middle of storms and face the consequences of that. So if you are at all a fan of things like Twister and Twisters and whatever, like this is something to probably pick up. It has that kind of romance, but in dangerous conditions storyline. And the thing that I liked is it doesn't glamorize storm chasing. It does point out how dangerous it is and how things can change really quickly and you have to be prepared. And I appreciated that. The other book that I read this week that was not related to these kids' titles that I probably could have, you know, spread out over 2 weeks, but I wasn't paying attention, is the middle fiction book A Rover's Story by Jasmine Warga. This is a really, really fabulous book. We have two perspectives in this book. We have Resilience, which is a Mars rover that has been built to travel to Mars and to try and restore a previous rover to see if it can collect its data, and then also to find any sign of life on the red planet. When we're in Resilience's perspective, Resilience is learning what it means to be a robot. And consequently, one of the biggest kind of underlying themes is what does it mean to be alive? And Resilience has this very optimistic nature and feels connected to the people who have helped build and train its model. And he's constantly learning. So from the very first chapter, we see Resilience learn and adapt and learn about its environment. And like for a significant part of the start of the book, Resilience is in pieces and he's learning about the world while in pieces. It is a really interesting book. The second perspective comes from a girl named Sophie, who is the daughter of one of the lead scientists who is programming Resilience. And through the course of the book, she's our timeline character because Resilience doesn't really understand time. And this book takes place over nearly 20 years. Or more than 20 years actually, because Resilience is on Mars for a number of years and then is offline for 17 years. So Sophie writes these letters to Resilience and is updating Resilience on things in her life and how her mother is, because Rania, Sophie's mother, is the coder. And through this we see what life is like. Life doesn't stop just because amazing things are happening in science and around the world and in our galaxy. Life doesn't stop. And she goes from being a 12-year-old girl to being a woman who finally sees Resilience when Resilience is returned home a quarter of a century later. It is a really, really beautiful book that touches on what it means to be human, what it means to be alive, what it means to have a sense of wonder and to explore. Resilience lives up to its name. It doesn't give up. It has a purpose and it is determined to find interesting information that will make it valuable for humans to come and collect it from the red planet, because rovers don't get recollected from Mars. It's very expensive to do that. Resilience is also aided in its mission on Mars by Fly, which is a little helicopter, and also Guardian, which is a satellite in orbit, and they were also really funny characters. I adored this. I thought it was really, really fun and gorgeous. There are illustrations at the start of every part of the book, and there is 4 or 5 parts. So there are 5 parts. I love this. I thought it was brilliantly written, and I'm really glad that I finally picked it up. I did immersive read this with the audiobook from Libby, and I'm glad that I did. So that is my reading week this week. This is a very short video because I thought it was supposed to be longer. It's okay, one day I'll sort out the dates in my head. It's fine. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you read any of these books or are you planning on picking any of them up? Feel free to let me know. Otherwise, feel free to leave a red heart emoji to let me know that you're here. Or alternatively, feel free to leave a storm emoji if you'd like to. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.